morning and welcome to the Geelong Cricket Show. We had a nice long hot week for you. Well, let's hope things cool down a bit today as yes, the great game of cricket continues in our city of Geelong. Joining me at the table of knowledge this morning, he's got the short sleeves on. He's raring to go this afternoon for his beloved Bowen Heads from the Bellarine Peninsula Cricket Association. And warm welcome to Tim Michell.
Yeah, thanks, Graham. No, I don't think there was any real choice besides the short sleeves, the hot week that we've had, and I've been in the T-shirts all week and just went for them again this morning. And obviously, as you say, heading down to St Leonard's again today. I think we need another 70. Unfortunately, I won't be part of it after going out last week, but looking forward to hopefully being part of another win with the boys.
And our special guest this morning, well, he wears a couple of hats. He's president of the Geelong Cricket Association and also fine batsman for the East Belmont Cricket Club, where, to quote, he plays both with gusto and profoundness. It's a very warm welcome to Graham Rawlins. How are you, my friend?
Well, Graham, thank you very much for having me.
It's great to have you here. It's been a bit warm the last few days. You looking forward to another day in the field or batting?
Well, again, with the start of a new round this week, we're not quite sure yet. Depends which way Sean goes with the toss.
Good luck, Earls. Hope you win the toss and bat. This morning, looking at Premier Cricket. Well, Geelong in the Victorian Premier Cricket last Saturday had the big occasion at the MCG where they took on Melbourne, but they weren't good enough. Melbourne scoring 6 for 252. Geelong 9 for 203 in reply. They didn't get sufficient runs. And Melbourne batting first on a perfect wicket at the MCG, taking the points, as did the third 11. Geelong seconds and fourths won. So Geelong have slipped the third on the club championship. But Tim, a disappointing result for Geelong, and it really now sees their 4 two-day games that they play through for the remaining 4 games of this season very, very crucial.
Yeah, they certainly are crucial, Graham, and I think when we looked at that fixture for Geelong, we almost highlighted the fact that they had 5 games on the run home that they probably would have been favoured to win, and there's still 4 games that I think Geelong are really capable of winning. They'll be disappointed not to have taken the points last week against Melbourne. Melbourne's batsmen obviously came out and did a fairly good job. Cats chasing 253 were always going to have their backs against the wall when they went to 2 for 4 when Damien Shanahan was out pretty early on, also losing Liam Buchanan, but I'd be backing them to bounce back this week. I think Geelong traditionally, we know, have struggled a little bit after Christmas, but hopefully that trend will turn around and they'll start to string a few victories together by setting themselves on the way to victory today.
Grant, Geelong, they've slipped now from being on top of the ladder to 5th position, but there's only a game that covers about 6 different teams. It's a fascinating competition, as it is in our local comp. But Geelong really need to consolidate with the 4 games. They've got Paran at home in a 2-dayer, Essendon up at Windy Hill in a 2-dayer, Richmond at home in a 2-dayer, and they finish off the season against Footscray Edgewater. So they're all teams below Geelong, but Geelong are going to have to make sure they're up to it.
I think they're going to have to play some good cricket, but it's a good time playing teams below you on the ladder to actually build some momentum. So hopefully they can get a couple of wins on the board, go into the last 2 rounds of the season and then into the finals with some momentum on board, and that can make such a difference at the sharp end of the season.
Go to Geelong Cats in Premier Cricket. We wish you all the best as we look forward to 11 a.m. this morning, the first ball of the 2-day game against Paran, Matty Harrison's old team. Be interesting to see if there's a little bit of going on between the 2 sides on the field. Let's turn our attention to the Bellarine Peninsula Cricket Association. And Tim, the first day of a 2-dayer last week, your beloved Bowen Heads had the bye. And it was interesting, it was only the highest score of the day was 198 runs scored by Newcombe. It was a bowler's day. Yeah,
it certainly was, and interesting to see whether a few of the batsmen, maybe after the Christmas puddings and everything else that was obviously consumed over the 2 weeks, came out and possibly lost a little bit of form. Obviously, Colindina, one of the sides that maybe did drop off a little bit because there was 3 or 4 new faces in that side, which was one of the interesting talking points to come out of their game against Queenscliff. Chris Morland making his debut for the club. Ewan Handley was back, but all these new talented faces that did come in couldn't stop Colindina being bowled out for about 130 against Queenscliff, and with the Cooters already at 1 for 40 overnight, they're certainly going to have their backs against the wall, the Cobras, to make sure they don't slip to their second loss of the season and really tighten it up at the top of the table.
So the Queenscliff Cooters are a strong chance to cause the upset at the start of 2010. Looking at Newcombe and Drysdale, the Drysdale Hawks resume at no wicket for one, chasing the Newcombe Bulls 198. Drysdale should be able to make those runs.
They should be, but I think it's going to be a fixture that really depends probably on the first sort of half an hour. If Newcombe's new ball bowlers can strike early and maybe send a few shivers down the spines of the Drysdale batsmen, then who knows, they might be able to make those inroads and really get into them. If Drysdale slipped to 2 or 3 for 40, Graham, then the Bulls with their tails up might really fancy themselves for the second win of the season. As you say, Drysdale really should be good enough, and the Hawks need a victory to cement their spot inside the top 6, especially considering that Wellington, who are only just outside the finals, I think they're a game and a half out. They've put themselves in a good position against Jan Juck, and Barwon Head's coming back from the bye obviously next week as well against Barrables. So Drysdale really do need a victory here, and I think because of the fact that it is so important, you have to back the Hawks in.
Barrable with Wilson taking 6 for 19, saw Ocean Grove all out for 124, and so Barrable resuming at 1 for 22 to confirm their place in the top 6. Yeah,
and they'll get those runs easily, Barrable. They're probably the form side of the competition at the moment, playing some fantastic cricket, and there's no doubt that that's coincided with Shane Wilson coming back into their side. Obviously, he's been Barrable through and through for the best part of probably 5 or 6 years now, and he was a big part of their A-grade setup before dropping back and just playing casually in their Bs. But Ben Strawn, the new coach up at Barrable, first year up there, convinced Shane to come back up. He's playing A-grade and obviously playing fantastically, and it's no coincidence, Graham, that their form has gotten better since Shane Wilson got back into that side, and 6 for 19 last week just outlined his class, and I think if the Bulls are going to push deep into finals, he's going to have a huge role to play.
Well, down the corner of Boat and Sprout, down at Port Arlington. Port Arlington resume at 2 for 31. Have they got the batting depth to get Anglesea's 174?
It's going to be a really interesting one. Another one of the tight games, I think, along with the Newcombe Drysdale game. This one's going to be tight. I'm going to actually back, I think, Anglesea to bowl Port Arlington out. Those 2 wickets were really crucial, and while they're not Port Arlington's 2 most important batsmen, who you'd probably have to say, in my mind anyway, Grant Stevenson, certainly Damien Vassalou is the big key. And talking to Paul McGrath, one of the veterans in that Port Arlington side, a little bit earlier in the week, he was very quick to admit that Damien Vassalou is the key to that side. And I think as much as Vass probably doesn't want to say it, he probably knows in the back of his mind that if he gets runs, Port Arlington are going to win this game. And Anglesea will know it as well. The big wicket is going to be Damien Vassalou. If they get him cheaply, and I think possibly they can, because Anglesea have been one of the form bowling sides of the competition throughout this season, I think Anglesea will set themselves on the way to a win.
Well, there you go. Tim Michell has picked Anglesea to defeat Port Arlington, just like he picked North Geelong to defeat St Joseph's last week in the GCA. Ha, ha, ha. And in the final game, Wellington take on Jan Juck. Ian Ligo being the backbone of the Jan Juck batting last week with 135 runs Jan Juck scored. Wellington no wicket for 15. Can Wellington go on and win?
Yeah, I think Wellington will win this one pretty comfortably as well. They normally take their time with compiling their runs, Wellington, and I think that's probably going to be a good thing. The longer they bat, obviously, the more runs they're going to get, and I think it might take them, say, 50 or 60 overs to knock off that 135, but Darren Cameron and his boys will be celebrating a win. It'll mean that Jan Juck, probably their finals chances for 2009-2010 is shot, which will be really disappointing for Aaron Munty and his boys, considering the high expectations that they had and the improvement that I think that side had in itself at the start of the season. But for Wellington, it means that their season's still alive, and really their top 6 hopes, the candle is still burning down at Wellington.
We go to a break on the Geelong Cricket Show and be back with our special guest, Mr. Grant Dew, after this.